Good evening. Tonight I will be talking about the California English Language Development Standards. The goal: prepare every English learner for college and career success. The objectives: during this block of instruction, you will understand the language demands of the Common Core State Standards, understand key shifts in the ELD Standards, and engage in strategies to produce meaningful and productive conversations. The language demands from the Common Core State Standards. And these are the student expectations. The California ELD Standards design. They are aligned with to be used in tandem with CCSS for ELA and literacy and apply to both ELD and content area instruction. They highlight and amplify the critical language knowledge about language and skills using language in CCS in order for ELs to be simultaneously successful in school while they are developing language. And what do they mean by providing fewer, clearer, and higher standards? Well, fewer means those standards that are necessary and essential for development and success. Clearer means a coherent body of standards that have clear links to curriculum and assessments, and higher means correspondence with elevated standards in CCSS. Key shifts. How many of you have had the opportunity to read the ELD standards? These slides only include 3 of the key shifts. There are many shifts can be found in Appendix B of the ELD standards. ELD standards are helping English learners accelerate their language development and academic success, just like the cars in the diamond lane are helping the drivers and passengers accelerate their speed. What are some examples of intellectually challenging activities? Some of you might still remember building background knowledge, or BBK, or activities within a project-based learning unit. This is an example of a sentence that is typically found in textbooks. You must think, how can teachers provide access to English learners? The teacher can model the process of unpacking densely written text. These sentences illustrate the meanings that contain in a densely packed sentence. What are some key words you notice from the key shifts? I would like to point out, as a future educator, I have been thinking about the standards as listening, speaking, reading, writing, and language modes. And the organization of the new ELD standards is completely different from my old way of thinking. The elements of the new ELD standards reflect the new shift. The parts of the ELD standards reflect the shift in integrating reading, writing, speaking, and listening. The shift from listening and speaking is not part 1, interacting in meaningful ways, and reading is not part 2, but all are parts of the ELD standards. Understanding language is a thread across content areas. Students are expected to learn high utility words and discipline specific words. What do the shifts in the ELD standards mean for me? Well, I think the implications for my work are that I need to learn more about the ELD standards and find ways to integrate them into my teaching. Here's an example ELD lessons for grades 6 through 8, also known as the intermediate level. Even though this is an ELD class, the content is aligned to the ELA Common Core State Standards. Remember that the skills taught in the ELD lessons can enable English learners' participation in content cases. So what you need to do is provide directions on what to look for. Look for the alignment in the standards, such as listening, speaking, reading, writing, language, and literacy. And think, do the students have the opportunity to communicate and be critical thinkers? Point out that it is critical for all students to have access to the content. A look at learning. What is a look at learning? All, also known as a look at learning system, operates on a program independence, purposeful use of materials, flexibility, and research-based content that is in line with the California standards for the teaching profession. It is independent of personal evaluation. It requires substantial time and support to reach full expert level implementation. Now let's look at the learning cycle. The learning cycle is a collaborative process to be used by collaborative teams or coaching sessions to directly improve instruction. Collaborative teams may be comprised of a teacher and an observer, or teachers meeting in department or grade level teams. The cycle follows the repetitive steps of continuous improvement in learning. It consists of 4 steps. First is thoughtful planning. Teachers plan a lesson together. Next, during the teach stage, teachers teach the team design lesson in their classrooms and strategically use pre-identified strategies. Step 3, in the analyze stage, teachers get together to examine student work and performance data. And the final is the reflect or act stage. Teachers reflect about their practices and observations of student learning in collaborative teams. Then, they determine their next steps. Finally, the teachers collaborate and the teachers' collaboration and reflection are the key components in all, or also known as a look at learning cycle. What does this quote mean to you? This quote reminds us that the process of planning is just as important as the plan. Hence, while we have all the binders and books and guides full of lesson plans, but our most effective instruction is usually when we take the time to plan our own lessons. These are some things you need to think about when trying to make an intentional instructional decision. Here's a strategy in action. Remember, language is a vehicle to understand content. But CCS alone does not provide a pathway toward English proficiency for ELs. In order for students to become more fluent and proficient, we must give them opportunities to practice the new language. Remember that the ELD standards should be used in tandem with the ELA and content standards to provide English learners access to the content while developing language. And here are some resources. The first is ALL, A Look at Learning. The next is the California English Language Development Standards. And finally, there's the E-Standards application, if you would like to download and use on your smart device, your smartphone or mobile device. Thank you.